Hello, it's us again. We're still here, and we now return to local news with Sonia.
Another event on Sunday, July the 13th. Traditional crafts will go on display for families at a stately home. Forty Hall will host demonstrations of traditional crafts such as beekeeping, blacksmithing, basket weaving, leather crafting, and wood turning. The courtyard of the stately home will open on Sunday, July the 13th at 12 p.m. Children's workshops include candle making, creating pencils, and willow weaving. Councillor Rohini Simbodiol, Enfield Borough Council Cabinet Member for Culture, said, "Forty Hall has a wonderfully rich history, and this event will bring it to life. The craft market is a fantastic way for visitors to buy and sell beautiful handcrafted gifts, with exciting workshops available for children to get involved in making their own. This will be a great day out for families and friends to celebrate and learn more about traditional crafts still being used today."
The new mayor of Enfield has made it his aim to educate more people about local politics. Formally appointed 2 weeks ago, Upper Edmonton Councillor Ali Bakir has set his sights on helping as many people learn about politics in the borough as possible. In an interview with the Enfield Independent, Councillor Bakir said, "I want to meet with different people to pass their views on to the Cabinet because a lot of people don't know how to reach the political arena. People have already mentioned problems they have, and they don't know how to go through the different committees, so I have been explaining that to them already. A lot of people aren't sure of the rules of local government, and I hope I can help more people know where to go with their complaints, because the council has a lot of power." Serving his second term as a councillor, Councillor Bakir insisted his mayoral duties would not affect his work serving the community. He said, "I will still be holding my regular surgeries and linking with my fellow councillors as often as I can. Having lived in Upper Edmonton, I know a lot about the needs of the people there." Councillor Bakir was officially named mayor in front of a packed council chamber earlier this month and admitted there was two sides to his emotions on the night. He said, "It was humbling in a way to see that many people, but others were upset that I couldn't get everyone in. But as I said on the night, I couldn't book Wembley. I left treats for all the councillors because I am someone who does things differently and not by the norm. I hope to do something different every time we have a full council." Mr Bakir also told the Enfield Independent that the borough has given him a lot of opportunities, and he wants to pay that back to the population. He said, "I have always been active in the community, but just being a councillor was not giving me much chance to be involved with charities and other organisations. As mayor, this is going to give me the chance to meet more charities and people to see what I can give back to Enfield Borough. This area has given me a lot of opportunities. I would particularly like to target charities that help children with learning difficulties. There is something inside me which makes me want to help those types of charities, and it hits me when I see these charities struggling."
Fathers took centre stage at a family fun day in Enfield Lock last week. The Prince of Wales Children's Centre in Salisbury Road hosted the Let's Celebrate Fatherhood Day, which was organised by Enfield-based organisation Father to Father. The fun day on Sunday, June the 15th, included gladiator fighting, bungee jumping and traditional sack races, as well as egg and spoon relays. Courtney Brown, the founder of Father to Father, set up the non-profit organisation to promote fatherhood and families following the August 2011 riots. He said it's all about positive role modelling, getting fathers more engaged in children's lives, education and health issues, and spending quality time together. The event was attended by Enfield North MP Nick Dubois, who said, "This is the beginning of something we should treasure, something that is important to Enfield. The organisation, which was launched last year at the Craig Park Unity Hub in Edmonton, will hold a second workshop for dads in November and another family celebration event for Christmas.
Parents and children have been left angry and devastated after their community arts project was vandalised. The graffiti mural, sprayed last week on the side of an industrial container in Bush Hill Park, was smeared all over with light blue paint between 8 p.m. on Sunday and 8 a.m. on Monday. The Friends of Bush Hill Park last week paid £400 to have a graffiti artist decorate the container, which was recently installed to house a cycling project. Children from nearby Bush Hill Park Primary School and dozens of passers-by all helped create the attractive piece over several days in time for the start of the Bike Box scheme, which started on Tuesday. But parents on the school run were left horrified on Monday morning as they walked through the park to find the colourful artwork ruined by the paint, which appeared to have been applied using a paint roller. The container was installed to store a number of specialist and standard bikes that will be hired out for free to charities for the disabled and other community groups. The Friends group had used the remainder of its grant money from Enfield Borough Council to pay for the commission, which was won by local artist Simon Tomlinson. Friends chairman Mariah Tolley reported the incident to the police, but it is hoped someone may have seen something that would help officers catch the perpetrator. And on a nicer note, more than 2,000 children took part in the borough's own take on the famous Tour de France, which starts this weekend, called the Tour d'Enfield. Children aged between 8 and 11 took part in the Festival of Cycling, which spanned 8 of the borough's parks and ended in Enfield Town on Friday.
A centre that changes the lives of children and adults with complex hearing and sight sensitivity is celebrating its 20th year. The Sound Learning Centre, tucked away in a residential home in The Rise, Palmer's Green, has been providing unique treatment methods for 2 decades to patients who are at their wits' end. Husband and wife founders Pauline Allen and Phil Stickland treat a broad spectrum of people, largely children with autism or dyslexia, who can suffer from sight and sound oversensitivity. The private clinic uses a holistic approach, and sound and light therapies over intense 10-day courses to treat the issues they believe are at the root of behavioural and learning difficulties among children who suffer with them. Mrs. Allen, who quit her job working with dyslexic children to set up the SLC 20 years ago, said, "I love it. Our jaws still drop on a daily basis when we see what some of our patients are going through. We remain very passionate about our jobs, and it is great to see the difference in our patients when the treatment has been successful." Mr. Stickland said, "We get huge satisfaction in putting something back into people's lives. This work should continue long after we are gone." The treatments on offer are not widely recognised by the established medical profession, but have a wide following among other holistic experts around the world. Almost all of the centre's patients are self-referred, although 1 or 2 have been passed on by GPs in the past, and the centre's assessments have previously been used as evidence of behavioural issues among individuals involved in court cases. The centre held a party with past and present staff and patients on Sunday to celebrate 20 years at The Rise.
Lecturers at Barnet and Southgate College staged a series of demonstrations outside 3 campuses yesterday in protest at proposed job cuts. Members of the University and College Union unanimously backed a vote of no confidence last Thursday in the college's principal, David Byrne, and his senior leadership team after plans were confirmed to make academic and support staff compulsorily redundant as they try to slash £5 million from its budget. UCU members have warned that the job losses, which it claims will equate to 30 full-time equivalent posts, will lead to successful courses being withdrawn, shorter course hours, bigger classes, and an increase in workload for the remaining staff. The union says more than 20 full-time equivalent posts in subjects including art and design, computing and catering are still at risk of redundancy. Nearly 15 support staff and 2 management positions are also under threat. Barnet and Southgate College, which has a campus in High Street, Southgate, says that budget cuts are necessary due to reductions in government funding, but that fewer than 10 teaching posts are at risk.
Police are appealing for information on the whereabouts of a teenage girl who has gone missing from her home in Edmonton. Hejirda Hoxhaj, 17, was last seen by her family on June the 13th at the address in Monmouth Road. The teenager's family are extremely concerned for her welfare and desperate to hear from her. Hejirda is of Albanian origin, has straight blonde hair, blue and green eyes, and is of medium build. She may be carrying some bags, possibly a duffel bag. Anyone who has seen her or has any information concerning her whereabouts is being urged to contact the Enfield Missing Persons Unit or call missing people on 116000.
A 10-year-old boy was nearly forced to miss his mother's wedding when his passport failed to arrive. Olivia Diamond of Lower Edmonton faced the prospect of her dream Italian wedding without her son Alex being present, as an unprecedented backlog of passport applications meant his own documents were delayed. Despite applying more than a month in advance before her wedding, Miss Diamond only received her son's passport 48 hours before heading off to Turin. She said, "I applied for my son's passport on May the 12th, and they told me it should only take 2 or 3 weeks. I left it over 3 weeks before calling back, but to no avail. It just became my worst nightmare, and I decided to turn to my MP, Andy Love, for help." Facing the trauma of not having her son, who was meant to be giving her away at the wedding, Miss Diamond claims it took numerous calls and faxes before his passport finally arrived. Miss Diamond added, "It is absolutely ridiculous that it could take this long to get my son's passport, and eventually I had to pay £73 to get the passport quicker." Miss Diamond set off for her wedding on Monday, and the ceremony is due to take place this weekend. Mr. Love, who helped Miss Diamond get her passport in time, is calling on the government to provide a refund to his constituents who have had to pay additional fees to have their passport applications passed through. He said, "It's a shame that the Home Secretary spent weeks burying her head in the sand, refusing to admit there was a problem, let alone take action to deal with it. To think the Passport Office has actually made money out of this situation adds insult to injury. It's been such a worrying time for an increasing number of constituents. The government must now accept responsibility, apologise, and offer compensation to the thousands of people, including my constituents, who had to endure unnecessary stress and pay more for a basic service through no fault of their own." Last week, the Home Office introduced a raft of new procedures to deal with the backlog.
A dispersal zone and extra CCTV is being introduced to an area of Enfield following numerous complaints of antisocial behaviour. Young people have been loitering in Chase Green, harassing neighbours, drinking in the street and committing criminal damage and theft. Enfield Borough Council has received a series of complaints about the issue and renewed a dispersal order that gives police the power to break up groups of young people hanging around in the area. Mobile CCTV cameras and additional police patrols will also be introduced to tackle the problem, and the council plans to send its youth work team into the area. Enfield Council's Cabinet Member for Environment, Chris Bond, said, "Enfield Council takes the safety and security of our residents extremely seriously, and we aren't going to tolerate a group of people hanging around our town centres, causing havoc and scaring honest, law-abiding members of society."
Education chiefs have given the go-ahead for a free school in Cheshunt to open its doors next year. St Mary's Church of England Primary School is aiming to start with 60 reception pupils in September 2015 at a brand new building in Lieutenant Ellis Way on the site of the existing St Mary's Church of England High School. A group of educationalists, including Stephanie Benbow, head teacher of St Mary's, came up with the idea last year of setting up a free school to address the growing demand for primary places in the area. Ms Benbow stressed that the bid, which was lodged with the Department for Education in January, was not made by the high school. She told the Advertiser, "We are all working in education and work closely with primary schools in the area, and it became obvious that there is a shortage of places. We have a big site here at the high school, and having consulted with parents, we decided to go ahead. The school will initially have 2 forms of entry, but Ms Benbow said this could rise to 3, depending on demand. The school will alternately provide 420 places for 4 to 11-year-olds from all faiths and none." Ms Benbow added, "We have a beautiful site with all the infrastructure in place, and we believe that providing a new school with a Christian ethos is something that the local community will respond to positively. A head teacher will be appointed later this year, and discussions with the Education Funding Agency about the new building are due to start next month. In February, the Department for Education approved an application by Meridian Angel Primary School, which will open its doors in temporary classrooms in Dysons Road, Edmonton, in September. The school is aiming to find a permanent home at the Meridian Water Development in Edmonton next year. And ARC Schools, which runs the ARC John Keats Academy in Bell Lane, Enfield Highway, is aiming to open the ARC North Enfield Academy in 2016. It has not yet identified a suitable site. It will be an all-through free school, which will consist of a 3-form entry primary and a 6-form entry secondary, and is being developed in partnership with the College of Haringey, Enfield and North East London.
This is a letter from Darren Johnson, Green Party member of the London Assembly. More and more people from different parts of London have been in touch with me to complain about being disturbed by aircraft noise. Common sense tells us that this situation will only get worse if Heathrow or City Airport are allowed to keep expanding. Heathrow alone is the most noise-polluting airport in Europe, affecting the lives of more than 750,000 residents. The government has set up the Davis Commission to look at the future of aviation. But I'm extremely worried that it is not taking the problems of noise pollution seriously enough. Furthermore, when we add in the problems of air pollution and climate change emissions, it becomes clear that the only sensible way forward is to try and reduce the number of flights rather than increase them. Some of the UK's leading companies have cut their business flights by more than a third and made much greater use of video conferencing. We do not need to simply accept further airport expansion as somehow inevitable.
Police are pushing to bring more abusive partners to court in cases where the victim does not need to come forward. The Metropolitan Police is working with Enfield Borough Council to increase the number of prosecutions of violent or abusive partners. Domestic violence prosecutions can be notoriously difficult to bring to court because victims or witnesses have been intimidated. But the local authority and the police are warning that they are working to increase the number of victimless prosecutions with techniques like recording officer call-outs on video. Enfield Council's Cabinet Member for Environment, Chris Bond, said, "We are actively working to increase the number of domestic violence prosecutions. Victimless prosecutions means that abusers are prosecuted and charged regardless of whether or not their victims come forward. I'd urge people to report any suspected incidents of domestic violence as we make it easier and less traumatic for them to report their experiences so that we can track down, punish, and ultimately rehabilitate the people responsible for these awful crimes. For more information, visit www.womensaid, that's womensaid.org.uk, or www.enfield.gov.uk. Or call the free National Domestic Violence Helpline, which is on 0808 2000, on 247 0808 2000 247.
Cricket news. With 4 men back in the pavilion and Winchmore Hill still needing 180 runs from their final 20 overs, the visitors, Harrow, would have been confident of claiming victory in their Middlesex County Cricket League Division 2 clash on Saturday. But they hadn't factored in a brilliant batting display by Scott Newman and De La Rey Terre Blanche, who smashed 128 runs off the final 13 overs to claim victory for the home side. Finishing on 317 for 4, Winchmore Hill achieved their highest ever successful run chase in the Middlesex League.
A war hero who recently returned from the D-Day 70th anniversary celebrations says he is determined to pass on the legacy of remembrance to the next generation. The Normandy Veterans Association, NVA, which leads annual commemorations of the Allied landings, is due to fold later this year because of dwindling numbers. But Mervyn Kirsch, a member of the South Cape branch, 75th of the NVA, says the next generation must never forget what happened on June 6, 1944. The 89-year-old former private of Ashurst Road Cockfosters returned to the French coast with the NVA earlier this month for what looks to be the final time. He said, "I felt particularly sad that this was going to be my last visit, but I felt pleased that I'm still able to come home from there when so many people didn't. It was very moving, very poignant." Mr. Kirsch visited various military graves, including the famous Bayeux Cemetery, where he bumped into politicians David Cameron and Ed Miliband. The former fabric manufacturer was also interviewed by ITV twice on his trip and said he and the other veterans received a warm reception from the French locals. He said it was nice because they were asking for photographs and coming up to us everywhere. It felt good to have that recognition. Mr. Kirsch says he is due to meet with his NVA branch members soon to discuss the future of the group in the wake of the national disbandment. And the father of 3, who gives D-Day talks at schools and synagogues, admits it is upsetting to see the institution falling by the wayside. He said, I shall be very sorry when it goes, but I am keen to pass on the legacy. I'm hopeful for children of today will remember what happened and why. It was evil. When people talk about those who lost their lives, I hate that phrase. They were murdered. People may say it is history, but it's not history for the dead and their relatives.
Police are appealing for information after a man was attacked at a bus stop in Winchmore Hill. The 62-year-old victim was assaulted near the Tesco Express Esso petrol station in Green Lanes at 12:30 p.m. on Friday, June the 6th. 2 men jumped out at him before kicking and punching him. Although the victim was able to fight them off and was unharmed, he was shaken by the experience. Officers believe the motive for the attack was robbery, as one of the attackers reached into the man's coat pocket. The 2 suspects ran into Elm Park Road after the attack. They are described as black and aged under 21 years old, and both were wearing dark clothing. Any witnesses or anyone with information is asked to call police on 101 or to remain anonymous, ring Crime Stoppers on 0800 555 111.
The Saracens forward Maro Itoje captained England to victory as they retained the World Junior Championship crown in New Zealand with a thrilling 21-20 win in the final over South Africa. The Baby Box charged back from 8 points down in the second half, but were unable to break the defending champions. Tries by Itoje's Saracens Academy teammate Nathan Earle and Exeter's Joel Conlon, coupled with 11 points from the boot of Billy Burns, who plays for Gloucester, secured a narrow victory for England in Auckland on Friday. England were forced to defend heroically in the dying minutes after Jesse Creel dived over for his second try of the match before they were able to celebrate victory. Delighted second-row forward Itoje, aged 19, said after lifting the trophy, "It doesn't feel real at the moment. It feels pretty special. It's something I dreamt of when I heard about the Under-20s Championship, and I'm so happy to be able to lift the trophy. This has been a fantastic experience for us." Their success delighted Academy manager Don Barrell, who told Saracens' official website, "It's a credit to all of the hard work the boys have put in throughout the year."
A royal visitor was the special guest at a garden party in Enfield at the weekend. Prince Edward joined the event at Capel Manor Gardens in Bullsmore Lane on Saturday as part of a national celebration of public gardens. The Earl of Wessex was joined by the Mayor of Enfield, Ali Bakir, and a number of other guests at the Worshipful Company of Gardeners garden party. The gathering was one of a number organised by the Worshipful Company of Gardeners at locations across the country. Prince Edward, who is 8th in line to the throne, was taken on a tour of the gardens linked to Capel Manor College during his visit.
Nicely timed, Sonia. We have reached the end of our programme for this week. Thank you for listening. So from the team of Jenny, Sonia, Phil, myself and Ian on the controls, it's
Goodbye.